my friends, it's Justin Michael. Welcome back to my channel, and of course, welcome if this is your first time visiting. I appreciate you stopping by. And this is going to be my third video in a series looking at decks put out by Yves Reynaud, who is a French card maker residing in the region of Marseille, France, appropriately, since we're looking at the Tarot de Marseille. He does great work. I'm a big fan of his. I have most of his decks, and I decided that I was going to do a whole series showing his decks, and so this is number 3. And in the last video, I showed the Pierre Madnet and the Nicolas Convert. In this video, I'm going to be showing 2 decks from Francois Heri, 1718 and 1730, and then a deck by Francois Chosson, 1736. This deck by Francois Heri, which is many years after his first deck, is vastly different. It's what's called a best in son, and I'll explain what that is when we get there. These 2 decks are very traditional Tarot de Marseille's, following the Pierre Madnet and the Nicolas Convert sort of canon. I'm going to show you the Francois Heri 1718 first, and we're going to take a look at that, and I'm going to share some thoughts on this. So, typical Yves Reynaud quality work, which is great. Cut meticulously. The cardstock is wonderful. These have very interesting backs. They're a bit different than what we've been saying with like the crosses and the X's and so forth, like these sort of designs. And this is a very unique deck too, even though it does follow that tradition, that you're used to seeing. It has a lot of like unique qualities to it. So I'm going to actually compare it to the Pierre Madnet, because this is published in 1718. Madnet was 1709. Nicolas Convert didn't come along until 1760, so it was many years, almost 50 years later. So this is a long tradition, in this region, and it's a canon that's been around for a very long time. We've seen, like for instance, the Nicolas Rollicon, which is supposed to be even older. It goes back as far as that, almost around the time of Jean Noblet. So from what I understand, I could be wrong about that. I don't know the specific date of the Nicolas Rollicon, but it looks to be a much older deck. And so this is a very old tradition. And it's the tradition that you're used to seeing. The majority of Tarot de Marseille's in the last 100 years have been, of this sort of tradition. And just looking at it right away, there are... The first thing that stands out is, well, it's a different artist, so you're going to have different art style, but you could look at the facial expressions. The facial expressions is very, very different in the Heri, right? You can see, the plants are different sizes. There's a lot, the coins are different sizes and so forth, but for the most part, it's a similar type magician, just a lot of differences, like nuanced differences, So I'm going to go through this pretty quickly, and I'm just going to point out some things. But you can see with the High Priestess or the Papess, you have some differences in color and in detail, and of course the facial expressions. But for the most part, it's a very, very similar deck. It's also much bigger. So I wasn't really understanding what was being said in the biography card, but Yves was talking about how in the Heri deck, they were able to save more of the border. Somehow more of the border was intact, or they didn't have to shave as much off or whatever. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but it is it's more significantly wider. It's significantly wider, this the Heri. So I don't know if that has to do with it, but it makes it historically significant. I have to figure out more about that. If anybody knows, I'd appreciate you commenting down below about what that's about, And, I've been asked many times from people, well, why do you need so many decks, so many Tarot de Marseille's that are from the same canon, they all pretty much show the same thing? And, the answer to that is, first off, they have their own personalities. You can just look at the facial expressions and so forth. But you start to develop an appreciation for the little differences. And do I need them? No, I don't. But I like to have them in my collection for comparing them, doing things like this. And I just think it's a significant part of tarot history. So. So we're going to look at the Chariot here, and then I'm going to start flipping through a little quicker. So you can see, so you have PM here, right, for Pierre Madnay, and you have FH there, so for Francois Heri. So that's pretty cool. Let's do one more. Well, actually, I'm going to show you this. So this hermit is much different than this. First off, it's a brown robe, and it's like a more traditional monk's robe, whereas this is more colorful. And the other deck I'm going to show you is sort of closer to the Pierre Madnay that way as well. But I just found that interesting. You do see the brown robe occasionally. That's one of the unique features of this deck. So let's just take a look at the rest of the cards here, and then I'm going to show you some of the pips, and then we're going to take a look at the Francois Chosson. So you can see it's very much that traditional devil, and then we have the tower. So Francois Heri is from Solothurn, Switzerland. He's actually a Swiss card maker. Let me show you some of the pips here. There's the Two of Pentacles. So that's the Francois Heri 1718. Very, very cool deck. I really like it. Has like its own unique personality that I have come to appreciate. So now we're going to look at the Francois Chosson. So the Francois Chosson, it has a really unique feature in that it comes with this paper. And, most of you will know, but even some card makers today still do this. They wrap them in paper, and this is how they used to be sold, And I don't know why some decks come with the paper and some don't in Yves' collection. And if you do know that and you can share it down below, I would appreciate it. But this one does. This is one deck that does come with it. And this is a very interesting deck. It's, again, in that same kind of tradition. So let's, let me, so I'm going to put the Magician down. And cardstock is very, very similar. These are the backs on this. These are more narrow, though. So give me 1 second here. I just want to, okay. So we're going to look at the Pierre Madnay once again in comparison to this. So we have the Francois Chosson here. One thing that pointed out, so the facial expressions are very, very similar between the Madnay and the Chosson, and also the Convert, which is different from the Heri, It's much more drastic difference in the Heri. This is very, very similar. But the blues are almost black in this. Like the navy blues look almost black. And I think, it's probably because it's a facsimile. I don't know if it was originally that dark or not, but it's navy blue, almost black. But again, it's very, very similar. Just a different art style, and of course it is a facsimile of sorts. So The clarity is also a little different as well. That's why I like the Pierre Manet. The Pierre Manet is so crisp. It just looks so nice. It's one of the many things that I like about the Pierre Manet, but also the facial expressions in general are. So let's see. It's very clear. And so again, we have the Chariot, and the Chariot has, you know, the different initials on there. We're back to the, you know, see, these hermits are very similar. So, well, anyway, I'm just going to flip through them, and you get the idea. I don't want to be too redundant here, but you know, very similar, part of the same tradition. Now let me show you some of the pips, and then I'm going to show you the last deck, the Francois Heri. So the pips in this deck are actually really cool. You know, I don't know where the Two of Coins is, but it should be right here. You have Chosen on there. So, very interesting deck. I'm happy to have it in my collection. And let's see. So, lastly, we're going to look at, pardon me. So we're going to take a look at the Francois Heri 1730. Now, this is, like I said, a Besançon. The thing that makes it a Besançon is that the Pope and the Papess have been changed to Juno and Jupiter. It comes from a very Calvinist region in France and Switzerland and so forth. So they wanted to do away with parts of the church. This is a very small deck. First off, it's almost bridge size, and a lot of my friends that really like smaller decks tend to like this one, but it's also part of the Jean Noblet tradition. So I'm going to actually show you what I mean by that. So Jean Noblet is, I have here from Joseph H. Peterson, the 1659 Jean Noblet, restored by Joseph H. Peterson. This deck is still available for sale on Etsy and I believe eBay or Amazon. It's really a great deck. It comes with two magicians, actually. So this is the restored magician with the full wand, and then this has like sort of a half a wand, which is pretty illustrious image. But you can see it's very much a part of the Jean Noblet canon, you know. And then, but this is very different. So now you have Juno instead of the Papess, you know, and that's because they were Calvinist and Protestant. They did not like the Catholic Church, so they changed it. And we have the Empress, but you can see it's much different than the Manet and the Convert. Let me show you the Emperor here, and then we have Jupiter. So instead of the Pope, you have Jupiter. Same lovers, similar, not the same, but the same tradition. The style is the Noblet style. You know, I really like this deck. I like the size of it. It's very unique for that reason alone, and then also because it's one of the few decks that go by the different Noblet tradition. And if you like Jean Noblet, you will like this deck. I mean, simple as that. So I'm just going to show you the rest of them here. I love that Hangman. I like that Hangman. His tongue, usually his tongue's sticking out. Can't really see his tongue in that one, but in that you can see sticking out. And the Devil is slightly different too, because he's a farrier creature in that, and you see that Fairy Devil later on, even in some modern decks. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Tarot Classic has that one, and some others. It's a more Swiss Devil, He doesn't have the face and the belly like the Noblet does, and so forth. But it's interesting how there's this synthesis that has happened in the Marseille. And there's, they say type 1 and type 2, but then there's also like type 0, which is the more Swiss and the ones that don't fit in sort of either category. Noblet is not a type 1 or type 2. It's more of a type 0, although I think they say it's more type 1. I think it has 7 of the 10 characteristics, something like that. But so they call it type 0, but it's not every deck can fit perfectly in one or another. But anyway, there's the Fool. Let me show you some pips, and we'll call it a night. So, it's a cute little deck. The pips are, they're adequate and very nice, and okay, so anyway, thanks for stopping by, guys. I hope that this was helpful and interesting. Please leave your comments below, and I'd love to hear from you. And I guess until next time, we'll talk soon. Love and peace. Bye-bye.